So my son asked me the other day if I knew what Reddit was. Excuse me? Apparently, turning 50 means I don't know how the internet works. 3 of my favorite books this month came from Reddit recommendations. So if you're wondering why I became obsessed with romantic suspense this month, yeah, you can blame Reddit. So I'm actually hurrying up and filming this video because one of the rare opportunities where I get to spend the day with both of my boys, they're 20 and 22, so hanging out with mom's probably not the coolest thing. But going to see a movie, the new Spider-Man came out this weekend, any movie they're gonna wanna go see, if they're welcoming me to go with them, I'm in. I call that a mom win every day of the week, even if it means I'm buying the tickets and the popcorn. I'll take it. So July ended up being a really kind of fun and suspenseful reading month. I definitely fell down a romantic suspense rabbit hole. I was just sitting there one day and I was kind of just in that mood, and sure enough, I go to Reddit. Actually, I didn't even go to Reddit first. I went to Google and I just said, hey, what are some super popular romantic suspense? And that, of course, took me to a Reddit thread or 10. I started checking through those, and people are just like, you need to check out Karen Rose. You need to check out Linda Howard. And again, I'm not asking what is 2026's best romantic suspense. I just want to know in general. I don't care when it was written. If it's good, it's good. And sure enough, that's what Reddit gave me. So I read 10 books this month, and I think that's a pretty respectable number. I said, I think at the end of last month, that I'm not going to pressure myself to get 12, 15, 18 books read just because of the channel. I'm going to read what's natural for me to read. And 10 books is what ended up being natural for this month. And I gotta say, look at the size of Closer Than You Think. Like, this is a big book, and it was lengthy. When I was reading it in my vlog, I said, look, this book's taking a while to get through. And if it means I can only read 1 versus 3 that could have fit within this 600, 700 pages, then so be it. I'm not trying to squeeze X amount of videos out of each wrap up. That's just not my vision for this channel. My vision for this channel is what I actually normally naturally read, and I want to discuss with you. So this month, my books ranged from 3.5 stars all the way to 5. Anytime I get a 5-star, I'm thrilled because I'm pretty stingy with them. And so when I get one, I really, really love it. It's something that's going to stay with me. Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier is a mystery, suspense, thriller, a little bit psychological thriller-ish. No real romance in this one. She tends to have a slight romantic edge, usually to 2 characters within her books. And I guess at the very frayed edges of that, you could say this did, but barely. That really isn't the point of this book. This is a woman whose husband, in the opening chapters, we find unalive, and she is going to be the suspect. The 50 different directions that this story goes from the second we find her in the same room with him when they're discovered and why she becomes the main suspect is how we open this story. And from there, it's a race to the end to prove her innocence. Is she innocent? Is she not? You never know with Jennifer Hillier's books, and all the different layers to the onion that have to do with this story. Jennifer Hillier has definitely become an auto-read author for me. The Butcher that I got for my birthday was just phenomenal, blew my socks off, even more so than Jar of Hearts. And I gotta say, that's why this one disappointed me just a little bit. If you watched my vlog a few weeks ago, it was good. It just wasn't amazing for me. It just, I don't know. Some books do it for you, and some books are just kind of like, okay. Like, again, we know this is kicking off my month, and the lowest rating I have all month is a 3.5. So by no means is it bad. It was just in the realm of The Butcher. It just didn't achieve that level for me. Definitely a great premise, as I mentioned. It definitely had twists and turns. All the pieces were there. It took a little bit longer for me to really kind of latch on to any of the characters or really care what happens to them. Honestly, by the end, did I care about any of them? Yeah, I suppose I did, 1 or 2, but not our main character. Maybe I need that a little bit more when I'm going to give a book, more than 4 stars. I really need to be either rooting or against the main character, and I just never quite connected. The book is split up into sections, like part 1, part 2, part 3, 4, 5. For me, parts 1, 2, 3, they progressively got better, but the final 2 sections of the book were absolutely my favorite. That brought it from what it was going to be a 3-star read to a 3.5. Really, the ending, and not just like the very ending, like the last maybe 30% of the book really redeemed it for me and got it back up to the level of what I expect from her. So again, overall, 3.5 stars. Was it good? Yes. Some people say it's the unsung hero. It's one of her underrated books. And maybe that's the case if you identify better with this character than I did. And I hope you do. For me, it's just not going to be one that I'll remember. So the next book is going to be Just Between Us by Lena Hendricks. This is book 3 in the King series, new series that I've found and stumbled upon that I really am enjoying. I tend to, in my mind, rank the books as I'm going along, is how I feel about it within the series. And I'm probably going to say it was my least favorite of the series so far, but still a really good book, if that makes sense. Like, I really enjoyed it. Royal and Vida are our main characters. Royal is the third brother we're exploring in the King family, and Vida comes to town. She's this business consultant that his younger brother has hired to take a look at things. He doesn't really know the real reason she's there. Their meet cute is just a lot of fun. It gets things rolling while, I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say it's online. And then when they meet in person, the two worlds have to kind of collide. And when it does, it's really fun. Possibly one of the reasons I didn't love the book as much as the other two is their connection for me. While really fun, quirky, cute, complex, but very, I don't know, I feel like they both bring healing to each other and peace to each other, which is really nice. It just wasn't as strong or as chemistry filled as the other two. But what was really great about this story, which was the strongest of the three, was the mystery element and what's really going on in the background of the disappearance of the King children's mother, decades ago, and a lot more going on behind that, which is kind of the central premise of this series. And we really dive into that in this book. Overall, I'm going to give this book a 3.75. The strength of the series is really your small town romance, your found family, the mystery element of what happened with the matriarch of the family. I'm definitely going to be going back for book 4. I don't know if it'll be in the next week or so. My mood rating is really flaring up right now, and so I know I'm going to get to it soon. It's just a matter of when I can get it at either KU or Libby. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. 3.75, solid read, just not my favorite in the series. The next book for me is complicated. Red Rabbit, I don't know how I stumbled on it. Possibly I might have seen somebody else kind of going over a reading wrap up and maybe I saw it there. I don't know. It's complicated. My feelings still, I thought about doing this on the vlog and I wasn't comfortable doing it, which is really strange, but I didn't feel comfortable describing what I was reading in a daily vlog. I will say, opening premise, this girl, she's up in the Arctic Circle or right at the edge of the Arctic Circle, visiting a friend, a longtime friend, and as she's leaving, she's got to get into one of these little puddle jumper type planes, it's like a 4-seater. There's her, she's walking towards it, you see the pilot, and then you see a guy in handcuffs and probably some kind of a US Marshal or something walking him towards the plane. So the trepidation that you feel with her getting into this tiny little cabin in the middle of nowhere, yeah, you definitely feel it. It is very anxiety ridden. There are things that happen in these opening chapters that you feel your pulse pounding. And then we go into survival mode. Our main characters are thrown together and they have to trust each other to survive. This aspect and the growing relationship between them, it's really good, and it's actually very believable. They had really great chemistry. And the first twist, which I'll say, yes, the first twist happens fairly early in the book and completely stunned me. Then the Warren happened. The book shifts significantly. And this is where my comfort level, I read dark romance and I understand that this is that. And I understand trigger warnings and all those things. And it's not to say that I was triggered. I'm Gen X. It's rare that something's going to have that effect on me. I think trafficking is one of the topics to read about that I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable reading about. I just don't like reading about it. The horror of what these captives go go through is really gut-wrenching and really hard. It's a hard read. It's hard to get through. It's hard to, not just feel, for knowing that this really happens in the world is just horrifying and gut-wrenching and just terrible, right? So I don't want to say that the author's glorifying, this white knight syndrome of, it's just hard. I'm still uncomfortable discussing it. It was written really well. A lot happens. We have multiple, it is a why choose. There are all these elements that make it really enjoyable. Honestly, I think the book could have handled 25% less spice. Like, we get the point. But when you're handling a topic that intense, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to say that they were glorifying certain things because a lot of people accuse dark romance of that. But this, I would say, is the closest book that I've ever read where I felt that might have made me uncomfortable. And so take with that what you will. I will say that it was a 4-star read. It was written very well. Elements of the story I really, really liked. Like I said, it could have done with 25% less spice and just focused more on the stories and the characters. A good portion of this book made me uncomfortable. The parts that made me uncomfortable, I wanted to give 2 stars. I didn't like that, certain things about it. So I will say this book is absolutely not for everyone. This is definitely a trigger warning book if you need to read them before going in. I don't get affected very often by books, and this one made me uncomfortable. Next, we're going to have my third John Marrs book. And yeah, this one proves I need to read everything he's ever written. I really enjoyed this a ton. I did it in the reading vlog. I will say one thing that I've noticed with his books, no matter if it's speculative fiction or just, kind of a psychological thriller or mystery suspense, all 3 books that I've read so far, the ending doesn't go quite the way I would go. And so they always take it down from a 5-star read for me for something in the 4s. And this one was no different. For me, the one is a 4-star read. It just didn't end quite the way I was hoping, but pretty darn close. And it is a wild roller coaster ride getting there. One of the storylines follows a complete and total psychopath, which is really interesting to hear inside his mind. At the same time, you have, another path. It's this DNA test that people take to find their one true love in the world and all the things that can go wrong because of human manipulation of this test. And that's where the story goes haywire. And it's really, really fast. This makes me absolutely convinced technology should never have anything to do with who people love. 4 stars for me, not quite a 5, because I always it takes me a minute to get in the books. Never quite 100% how I would hope it to end, but I love everything that happens in between. It's so fast and so smart. I really enjoy this book. Finally, I have read the book Talk Darling, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I completely understand why everybody loves this book. Evelyn is fascinating, beyond fascinating. You feel like you're listening to Rita Hayworth or Marilyn Monroe, their story over the years. It just really has that icon feel to it. The old Hollywood setting was just magical, like everything old Hollywood is. One thing I will say that in retrospect probably affected my overall feeling is that there's a TV show on Netflix called Running Point. And this show decided, I think in its 2nd episode, to spoil the entire ending. And so I'm still really mad about that. I remember I waited a few months since I watched that episode and I was like, are you kidding me right now? Yes, the book is 7 or 8 years old. Understandable. However, people all the time, for instance me, are just now finding out about it or just now getting around to reading it. Yeah, so I knew the big twist before it happened. Now, does that take away from amazing writing, amazing story, all the feels? It had everything, all the elements any great book needs. No, it didn't take away from that in that sense, but would I have loved to have been shocked by it? Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, my expectations were so high because Book Talk makes this book one of the Roman Empire books. And, it's hard to live up to that, especially when a TV show has spoiled the ending for me. Honestly, I went with a 4 stars for for this, please don't come for me. I totally and completely respect how it's 5 stars for most people, honestly. Again, the ending was spoiled for me going in, so I didn't in any way cry for what ends up happening, and I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to spoil it for, everybody. Overall, I just really enjoyed the story. I don't know that I ever really truly connected with anybody other than Harry. I really liked Harry. If any of the characters pulled at my heartstrings, that and her daughter a little bit towards the later chapters. But Harry, I think, was my favorite in the book. I really just identified with him, cared about him the most. And in Evelyn's plight, people shouldn't have to go through that. Absolutely. And what strength and courage she showed in going through, her life's journey. It was really a fascinating read. I will give it that, and it was written so well. But for me, at the end of the day, I'm going to go with a 4-star. It didn't blow my mind like everybody. I was hoping I was going to be sobbing, and which is why I'm reading Calling Me Dead, because I heard that's another complete and total tearjerker that I've just started, I don't know, like a night or two ago. For the same reason, like I'm looking for that emotional, to be shook. And so this didn't really shake me, but it was really, really good, and I did enjoy it. The next book I read was Pucking Strong by Emily Rath. It felt really good to get back to the Jacksonville Rays. Honestly, as soon as I started reading, I was smiling, I was laughing. It felt like coming home to some of my favorite characters. Like I was laughing out loud physically so many times reading this book. This dives heavily into the fake marriage trope, which of course we know what direction that's going to go by the end of the story. Teddy and Henrik were a fantastic couple. They get thrown due to horrible circumstances into instant parenting, and they handle it really well. They were just so easy to root for, and Carolina absolutely steals the show as their all of a sudden daughter. It was a really sweet family story. Instant family, fake marriage that turns into true love. It was just really good. Was it my favorite in the series? Probably not. I think the farther we get away from pucking around book 1, I enjoy all these characters for the found family aspect, but I have not yet loved any of the other couples as much as our original couple. I would say that I enjoyed it more than Pucking Wild. Probably my 3rd favorite in the series. It was really good. I enjoyed it, and it was nice to get back to Jacksonville. Can we first talk about this book cover? Like, what are we doing? This book was recommended to me during one of my Google searches or my Reddit thread searches, and I almost skipped it once I pulled it up just because of this cover. I mean, it looks like every cheesy KU, cheesy romance, whatever. Like, I almost didn't click open. But Reddit heavily steered this month, and it convinced me to just give it a try. And I'm really, really glad I did. Reddit was absolutely right. And thankfully, if you click on the hardcover, we get to change the picture. We find ourselves immediately in a serial unaliver situation. We're in the Rocky Mountain National Park setting. There's a lot going on. It's definitely more outdoors than indoors. I would say I read at least the first 40% in my initial sitting. This goes to show not to judge a book by its cover. The old cliche, but in this case, it's true. The covers are horrible, but what's inside of it was really, really good. This is a super believable thriller. Cass and Alta work really, really well together right off the bat. It is insta love. Not gonna lie, it is one of my least favorite aspects of the book, as well as his nickname for her, Lady. Like, I don't know. Technically, it's her middle name, so you got to kind of let this one go, but I kept feeling like every now and again, like he would sound condescending because, be like, look, lady, but he doesn't mean it like that. That's his nickname for her. I would say that wasn't like my absolute favorite thing, but everything else I really enjoyed. This definitely kick-started my romantic suspense kind of binge fest this month, and I definitely plan on checking out the next book in the series. I did read, how a lot of times at the end of the book, you'll get like a sneak peek into the next book, and so I got to read the prologue of book 2, and it was bone chilling, like terrifying, this prologue. And so I definitely plan on reading book 2. I will say that cover is just as horrible, but actually it's not as horrible. It's just really, really close. Again, everything within the covers is well worth the read. Things We Do in the Dark left kind of a not amazing feeling for me about my Jennifer Hillier experience. Up to then, it was The Butcher, Jar of Hearts, which blew me away, and then I read Things We Do in the Dark, and I was just kind of like, nah, like it was all right. Well, she completely redeemed herself with Little Secrets. This has a completely heartbreaking opening with a high octane, anxiety filled scene with every parent's worst nightmare. Our female main character, Marin, she is extremely easy to sympathize with and connect with. But with all of Jennifer Hillier's characters, especially her FMCs, there's way more going on than what's on the surface and what meets the eye with these characters. And so, unfortunately, as we peel back some of the layers to Marin and things get a lot more complex, then the story like explodes into a complete and total roller coaster. Part 3 of this book, my actual jaw, I was stunned. I'm reading and I was just like completely and totally stunned. The book had those kinds of reactions coming for me. At the end of the day, I gave this a 4.25. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me, but it was really, really good. And it was complete redemption for this author for me. The pacing was excellent. The twists were twisty. Definitely one of my favorite thrillers for this month. And I would say when it comes to Jennifer Hillier, probably my second favorite of her books. Butcher's still going to be number 1 for me. Open Season is my next book, and Linda Howard, this came through my Reddit search, and another new author for me, and absolutely this opens a world of new romantic suspense thrillers because this book was written, I think, in 2001. If you watched my vlog a few weeks ago, it became apparent when one of the characters was talking about a pager, and it reminded me what it was like to be working person back right around, the Y2K era. That one mention was the only thing in the entire book that really dated it for me. It doesn't matter when something was written. If it's good, it's good. And this book was really, really good. This book starts out in this adorable Alabama small town setting. Daisy, our main character, is almost impossible not to just completely adore. Like she's something else. She's a little spitfire. Little kind of mousy town librarian vibes, and she gets quite the makeover. There's a new police chief in town, and he's a Yankee of all things, which to her Alabama mentality is just, oh, how could he? But he annoys her almost instantly and constantly. And of course, that's the perfect recipe for a small town romance. There was great banter. It's definitely slow burn, but again, the fact that he just annoys her so much and she just, she can't take it. It's just so fun to kind of like peel back the layers of. To me, this was suspenseful without being like overbearing. It was suspense mixed with small town romance. It almost had a very Sandra Brown, Nora Roberts kind of a feel to it. Maybe that's showing my age a little bit, but you know what? I embrace my 50 and I embrace my silver. So I think everybody should be proud. I gave this a 4.25 stars. This is just great storytelling, and great storytelling is timeless. I'm excited to start working through Linda Howard's backlist. Closer Than You Think, without a doubt, my absolute favorite book of the month, my 5-star read, Karen Rose, new author for me, and thank you again to Reddit. Reddit, you were right. This is a great story. One of the best prologues I think I've read in quite a while. It really kind of just set the pace. Faith was immediately sympathetic. The villain was creepy throughout. This had a slow burn romance that absolutely was done perfectly. It is a very lengthy book, but like I said in my vlog, every single page is pertinent and relevant to the story and the mystery and catching this unaliver, and just it's put together in a unique way in which the span of this ginormous book only goes 4 days, 3-4 days, and so it'll be like Sunday 4:50 p.m. such and such, what's going on, and then the next chapter will be Sunday 7:45 and what happens. So it's following this investigation, this procedural element, this crime thriller that happens to be romantic suspense in a way that you're uncovering as the detectives uncover everything. It really just is fascinating. It is something different that I've not experienced in quite a while, and I really, really enjoyed it. This book is the first in her Cincinnati series. I started reading the second book, Alone in the Dark, of this series, and then my mood rating kicked in and I was like, nope, I want to go with romantasy all of a sudden, which we know isn't even my favorite, but for some reason that's where my brain went. I wanted to start on Crown Me Dead. So I'm on hold for book 2 of the Cincinnati series. series until my brain is ready to be receiving all those details. But this book, by 40% of the way through this book, I felt like I had read an entire mystery. And I'm thinking, what else can there be? And then there's an entire 60% to go with tons and tons of different things and twists and turns. It's just so complex, but not so complex that it's impossible to understand or read. Like everything, it keeps you engaged. It keeps you with the story. Like it is very, you can understand everything that you're going through, that these characters are going through. It's so easy to follow along while not making you feel dumb doing it. At the end of the day, absolute 5-star read for me. This was such a great find because I had never heard of this author, and now I have an entire catalog of books to go through when I'm in that romantic suspense, crime, procedural kind of mood. If you've read Karen Rose and have another favorite series or another favorite book, please, by all means, let me know. My first recommendation to read this author did not steer me wrong, and so I'm looking forward to any others that you might have. All in all, July became the month where I rediscovered my love of romantic suspense. I thought I'd bounce around a few genres here and there. What I ended up getting was serial unalivers, FBI agents, missing women, small town mysteries, and I loved almost every minute of it. And I also realized that sometimes Reddit can give you better book recommendations than Goodreads. So thank you, random people on the internet. I'd love to know, what was your favorite book of July? And if you've read Karen Rose, which book should I read next? Because I have a feeling I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole of her entire backlist. If you can, please like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm a lot, just so that more people can find our channel. As I said before, I really feel like our age group is underrepresented here on YouTube, and I just want us to have a place where we can all go, discuss books, all the things that we love, and I hope I see you next week.